about marketing and whatever other wisdom and jewels he wants to share. So, without further ado, Devon, you have the floor.
This session really will talk about how do you how do you utilize the marketing mix to market your business? Because people, I love when people say I'm a marketing person, but then when you ask them, well, what are the four P's of marketing? And no one can ever talk about that. So there's a basic definition. What is marketing? That's what I call the clear definition of what marketing is by activity, institution, and process for creative communications. But I like to use in layman's term. So people confuse marketing, sales, and public relations. I always tell people in layman's term, marketing creates the need or the want. Literally, you have to let consumers know I need or want your product or service. I think about people create. Let's say how people create brand loyalty. You've now told me I need or want your product or your service, but that's how you start creating brand loyalty. I think I'm going to use Victoria Kitchen as a prime example. I went to Victoria Kitchen on Good Friday, and it literally, I'm sorry, not Good Friday. Victoria, I went to your kitchen when they did the whole Buy Black campaign to support Black-owned restaurants. It was packed, and you literally could not get in there. But Victoria has created, she created a want. People wanted her food that particular day. People wanted all the restaurants that are Black owned. They wanted your food that day. But then the question becomes, how do you maintain that volume once you got it there? And that's where I tell people sales fills that need or that want. That's the difference between marketing and sales. Once you get the person in your doors, then you fill it with a need. So now you make it where people want to come back. So once Victoria participated, I mean, I saw the flood of people who came into a restaurant that day on that Buy Black restaurant day, and many Black-owned restaurants. The restaurants were flooded. The question is, a week later, what happened? Was that same flood in there the following week? Did you create consistency? Did you create brand loyalty around that? And that's what marketing really is about. It's about creating that necessary, I want your product or your service. But then when on the back end, what that sales pitch is, you want to make that gourmet food so excellent that people are saying, that's my restaurant of choice. I'm coming back more and more. And I'm coming back not just for the one selection, but I'm coming back for the various selections. I hear many people talk about the vegan option pescatarian. So hopefully most of you participated in that Buy Black restaurant, particular day on that Friday, hopefully you saw your volume increase and it continually increase over time. Lastly, people get public relations, they get it totally confused with marketing. Public relations is nothing but free advertising. That's all it is. It's nothing but free advertising, i.e. word of mouth. Once you guys did that Buy Black, Buy Restaurant day, you created that kind of that space, that word of mouth. But 50% of your business actually comes from word of mouth. And that's what I tell people. You got to understand the difference between the marketing and sales portion and the PR portion and relations portion, because they're totally different. So then this thing called the marketing mix. I always say I call it the four P's and the one C. You got your product or service. I'm sorry. First, you got price, you got place, and promotions. Those are the four P's. You think about how do you market this? How do you market your product or service? First, you market based on the product itself or the service. Then it's about the price. I tell people all the time, be mindful when you market based on prices, because folks will pigeonhole you and say, listen, you told me this is how you market based on price. I tell people all the time, and I'll go into this when I talk about price, but think about from a marketing standpoint, you must look at these four P's, because that's the way you actually position yourself in the marketplace. Is it about your product or service? Is it about your pricing? Is it about your place, or is it about your promotions? Those are the ways in which you market. Then I have the what I call the one C, cause marketing. Cause marketing is key, and I'm going to talk about that at the end. When you market based on product or service, I tell people, especially small businesses, one of the things that you must identify is some key element of your product. What is it about your product that makes your product unique versus your competitors? You think about that, because there has to be something unique that makes people want to buy your product or your service. So, your quality of the service is so key. Small business, I tell them that all the time. As small business owners, one of the things you can market is based on personalization. You provide personalized service to your consumer, meaning, i.e., the fact that I came into Victoria's kitchen, although it was crowded that particular day, I knew Victoria. I could pick up the phone and call Victoria, say, "Hey, I'm in your restaurant. I'm here. What are your best options for this Buy Black restaurant day?" And the fact that I can touch and feel the owner, that makes a difference. That sets you apart from some of the mid-sized and larger restaurant owners. And that's what people are looking for. People want to go back to the notion of not just quality, but personalization. The fact that you value me as a customer, it makes me feel important. And it provides an opportunity to go back to and become a loyal customer. Price. I tell people all the time, when you market based on price, think about Walmart. Walmart's slogan was always low prices. We think about some of the other supermarkets. The young lady Kendall talked about what food, I'm quite sure all of us experiences because of inflationary period. Food prices are astronomical. I mean, eggs the other day was in the supermarket. A dozen eggs was $8.99. Who can afford eggs at that price? But if I hear of a certain supermarket, like a grocery outlet, is advertising eggs on a certain scale, on a certain price, if I hear someone marketing based on eggs at Light or Aldi's or the grocery outlet, that's going to galvanize me to say, you know what, I'm going to that particular price, and I'm also going to tell family, friends, and neighbors that Aldi has this eggs on sale for $2.99 versus $8.99. But be mindful when you market based on price, you don't want to be pigeonholed into the fact that someone will say, um, that particular restaurant, that particular mobile cart, that particular food cart, their prices are more than or less than. You just be mindful when I tell people all the time, just don't get caught up in that prices strategy, because again, it can really hurt you. It can help you, but also can hurt you as well. But Disney doesn't market based on price. Disney market based on place and experience and product. So what I'm saying is, when I say market based on price, you don't want to market your services or product based on price, because what happens, people then pigeonhole you into a certain quality of product or service. If you market yourself saying, okay, I'm marketing based on my price and my service or my product, that's what I'm referring to. So I'm thinking about, so Walmart always is always low prices. Think from high end. I'm thinking of if you think of a consumer from a department store, Neiman Marcus. Neiman Marcus, and I call it needless markup. Needless markup is catered to a certain segment of the marketplace who have no problem spending $1,000 on a pair of shoes. So that's what I'm saying about marketing. Don't get up in the word pricing strategy versus pricing marketing. So there's one thing about pricing strategy when you're going to do, say for instance, some restaurants at the end of the day, they reduce their prices. So you're saying after 4 p.m., I know that my volume, I have leftover danishes, whatever. And most people buy danishes, during a certain time frame. So you can let people know that, hey, I'm going to reduce the price of these danishes after 4 p.m. I'll make them half price or whatever the price is. That's what I'm saying about pricing strategy and pricing versus pricing marketing. You don't want to get into the point of saying, I run a breakfast restaurant, and I know that I'm marketing my products and my service, but I'm not marketing my price. Only time I want to focus on the pricing is if I know I'm going to reduce the pricing and use it as a marketing employee to get people in the doors, to then get them to come in during my high volume time, which is from 8 to 4, versus coming in after 4 when I know I'm reducing prices to get rid of product so I don't trash it. So that's what I'm saying about pricing, not looking at pricing from a standpoint of inflationary period. We all know cost of living goes without saying. I'm not saying that. What I'm referring to is use it as a strategy to get people in your doors. Place. When you think of place or distribution channel, how do we get that product or service to the marketplace? Victoria, I keep using Victoria because I know it well. Victoria is located in the main strip. It's on a bus line. So if I need to get the bus there, if I need to park there, I can park on the side street, I can park on Old Guys Avenue. I can get there. The young lady at Chester, who's not too far from White University, she gets students in her place to focus on. She uses again, she uses a promotion to get those students in those doors, which is key. But when you think about your business, I look at the people who own carts. And there's a crackdown right now. That's the first story of the weekend. There's a crackdown on certain food carts in the Juliana Park section of the city, where LNI is now shutting down food carts after a certain time frame. And certain food carts saying, "Wait, those are our high times when people are coming out of from work or they're coming out of clubs. They're coming to our food carts." So you think about food carts and where you place them. That's what you think about place. If I market my business based on my place, my distribution channel, that's key. Where I situate myself will make a difference. Think about people who started out in food carts and then they open up brick and mortar businesses. They literally realize, I know if I start at Penn's Landing, I'm going to get a volume of people who then start creating this brand loyalty, who know my brand, know my product, know my service, and then say, next, I want to go to a brick and mortar. And you think about businesses who start out as food carts. So for all you vendors who are food cart vendors, think about where you're placing yourself. Think from a strategy of saying, I want to be on a strip, i.e. a college campus, i.e. a main avenue where I know people are shopping, where things are thriving to make things work. If you notice in Chester, if you people are familiar with Chester Hill has no vendings on Chester Hill. They zoned it that way. So because they wanted people to go in those stores versus going to a vendor on Chester Hill, even on the side streets. Only time Chester Hill will have a vendor if they do a special day in Chester Hill. But for the most part, you don't see vendors along Chester Hill. So, as a food cart business, Chester Hill is not my option. Promotions. Small businesses spend a ton of money on promotions. And promotions is nothing but, it's two phrases. You got free promotions and you got costly promotions. One of the things I say to small businesses all the time, 50% of your business is going to come from word of mouth. I tell people family, friends, and neighbors are key to your business growth. What, your family, friends, and neighbors. You think about it. We just celebrated Mother's Day. For those who have mothers still alive, your mother is your biggest advocate a lot of times. She's going to promote your business to your friends, to their families, to their colleagues, to their groups, to their social orgs, their church orgs, their mosques, wherever their houses of worship. A mom is going to do that for you because I tell people all the time, your mother's going to be there for you when no one else will. But family, friends, and neighbors are going to be your first vehicle that you approach as you promote your business. And even as times get slow, talk it up. You are your best salesperson. No one can sell nor tell your story better than you can as a business owner. I mean, that's just reality. And you think about it from a standpoint of when times get rough, who do you run to? You run to that person that's living with you. You run to that sibling. You run to that family member. You run to your friends. You run to coworkers. So go back to what started you, and that's really your network. And I tell people all the time, your network creates your network. And that's how most businesses start out. They start out with literally with word of mouth. Then this thing called networking. I did a session one day. A young lady said to me, I said, listen, you have to get out there and you have to network. She said, I'm shy. And I said to her, I said, when you think about from a strategy standpoint, when you go into these networking sessions, don't walk away. Always say to yourself, I want to walk away with meeting someone I've never met before. You can always huddle up with those you know, but start out with someone you don't know. If you go into networking session with your hands in your pockets, your arms folded, you don't look engaged. You always want to appear engaged. Even if you don't drink, get a bottle of water and put it in a glass and ask the person who's making the bottle of water, add a side of a wedge of lemon and lime and oranges, because you want to look engaged, because you never know who you're in that room. When you go to these networking sessions, because this is all forms of free advertising, free promotion. When you go to these networking sessions, go in there with a mission in mind. I know I need to meet a certain person. If a certain person I need to meet, and I need to make that my mission. Go in there with that mission, meet that person, massage that relationship, but have that 30-second rule. When I tell people all the time, you give yourself no more than 30 seconds to introduce yourself, say who you are, say what you do, find out what they do as well. Right now, because of COVID, people use the digital card, which is great because it takes up part of that 30 seconds. So you gotta show the person how to use your phone to do that digital card. But as you take that person's digital card information down, make sure you do, ping yourself to say where you met this person, how you met this person, their affiliation, and what you believe they can do for you. Then immediately text that person and say, great meeting you. Look forward to connecting soon. Networking is one of the best tools to get yourself out there from a free form of advertising. Because a lot of times we like to dump a whole ton of money on advertising, on promotions, and guess what? It doesn't garner what we're anticipating. Most promotions garner between 1% and 10%. And that takes about 7 hits to get just one response. So think about that. But if I know I can go out there and utilize a network, utilize family, friends, and neighbors as a way of promoting my business versus I.e. spending a ton of money, that'll be great. Referrals are key for all of you who meet new customers. And one of the things I've realized about restaurants, I went to a restaurant in Norristown, and the woman knew I was new. She had never seen me before, and she immediately asked questions and said, "How did you learn about us? Because I've never seen you before. You're not one of our regulars." And we just engaged in a conversation. She was already taking market research data to know that I learned about her restaurant from what I saw on Good Day Philadelphia. And I said I wanted to come in and sample your product and buy your product. But more importantly, she already realized, engaged me, and started taking note of just what that promotion, what she saw on Fox 1 Now, which was again another free form of advertising, because that's part of the public relations portion of the advertising. But what she immediately said was, "I'm going to make sure I take care of this gentleman. He is new, and I know that something's going to come behind this." And I ended up referring someone else to this restaurant, saying, "You know what? I saw it on Fox 1 Now. It was great. I had a good experience." Same thing with Victoria. Whenever I go on Vicky's restaurant, I tell people, "Listen, I got Victoria's restaurant. A friend came in, Vicky, just so you know, she loves your banana pudding. Every time she comes in from Virginia, she comes in not to get a meal, but she comes in for your banana pudding because I referred her to your restaurant." So referrals are so key for your business, but that comes from having a keen sense of, as a business owner, observing who is coming around you from a standpoint when a person's new. So make sure your frontline workers observe, not just serve people, but understand. I want you to see who's new coming to my door, and learning more about, getting as much information as possible in that quick second about that person. So this way you'll jot down, I want to remember that person next time they come. So because promotion is it's so invaluable. I mean, I can, on the next session, want to spend a lot more time on this thing called promotions, because we we utilize promotion, but we need to understand this thing called promotion. Social media, and I tell people all the time, but social media was designed for infotainment purposes only. That's how she was designed. A lot of people are now using it from a marketing standpoint, which is ideal. But understand this: you need to separate your personal social media from your professional social media, because people will utilize that against you, and they also will utilize it for you. When I say against you, i.e., I'm going to go and do some research. People do this all the time. They go on restaurant Instagrams, but then they find out who the owner is, and they go research about the owner as well. And they see something that they feel is defamatory or disgraceful or degrading. They're now tagging the two together. So make sure you separate out your personal from your professional. And I love when people say my personal page is private. Make sure you keep the two separate. Make sure you keep it private. But one of the things about restaurants you guys have one up on is when on Instagram, people love doing Instagram postings when they go to restaurants. So or they go to mobile stations. They take pictures of their food all the time. Facebook used to do. People used to do it all the time on Facebook, and now they use a Facebook Live. when they're doing an Instagram live, when they're in these restaurants, they talk about highlighting your particular restaurant, particular vending cart, whatever you have. But people are utilizing that as that option. The Also, search engine optimizations are so SEOs are so key. Make sure you connect with a person who understands SEOs. That is key at all times that you do that. Your Yelp, your reviews. Make sure you look at your reviews because that's going to be key as well. I want to talk real fast about the 1C cause marketing. If you looked at cause marketing, I want all of you to think about this. When you sponsor something that's attached to a little league, a dance troupe, a football team. That's part of a cause marketing. And that's where you create some branding opportunities for yourself and that you tie yourself to a cause. I mean, you look at the gentleman talked about the whole Truist golf tournament that happened over the weekend at Flowertown. Truist used that as a cause effect because Truist saw it as an opportunity not only to promote themselves, but also to create brand loyalty to say we're looking for quote unquote high net worth clients, but more importantly, they said we support the community because even though people are looking at golf as quote unquote certain segment of the marketplace, but more and more people are getting involved in golf. But Troy said, I'm going to create that as a cause of what we do as a financial institution. And all of you as restaurant owners, identify a particular cause. I want to use Keith, I won't say her name, but she makes desserts. And one of the things she did, she used the month of May as lupus month to help promote her desserts and baking goods. And that was her cause. And she tied it with the Lupus Foundation. And for every dollar, for every baked good that was purchased, she donated a certain dollar amount to the Lupus Foundation. And that's what the Lupus Foundation in turn promoted her business as well. So think about that 1C that no one really talks about as this thing called cause marketing.